Alright, so this is part 3. Hopefully you've completed part 1 and 2. So open up your Blender files and let's get started.
Alright, so now let's move on to the toe box. So let's just use other, I think so. So let's select one of these, any of them to be honest. Shift D to duplicate it, and then press P to separate it. There you go. So now let's select it, and then go into edit mode, and then let's just line it up a little bit, and then extrude, control, left click or right click. Let me just start to solidify, it's kind of annoying me a little bit. So there we go, just follow the reference image basically. Follow that line over there. There we go. And just go around there. Don't go all the way down, just stop right there for now. Move this, extrude it up one more. There we go, select everything, go to top view mode by pressing 7. And then let's just bring it up just a little bit. There we go. So now you got it there, let's just extrude it out. Extrude it again, pressing E. Something like that. Do the same thing for the other side. Extrude about 3 times. There we go, so let's select this edge here. Go to front view and then let's just bring it down. Turn on portion editing as well. There we go. Don't worry about it being perfect. We're going to use the sculpt tool later on to kind of get a bit more smooth. Bring the sides down. There we go. All we're doing here is just getting into the general shape. Something like that. Let me speed this part up. So let's do the same thing on the other side. Just select all of these edges, move along the Y, and just move it down. Same thing with this one. And this one, just move it down a little bit. There we go. So on the other side, just bring everything down. Use portion editing as well. Bring this down a little bit. So yeah, let me speed this part up again. So now let's select these edges out here alongside, and then let's just extrude it down. So E and then Z. Scale it out just a little bit. And then we're gonna do the same thing we're doing for the last, I don't know how many minutes. Just bring them in, and pull them down and pull them out. So let's speed this up once again. So once you get like a general shape of it, kind of like this, it looks alright. Now you can go into sculpting mode. So come up here to the top where it says sculpt and click on that. And then we want to be able to see what we're doing. Actually, you can see how it's all dark on this face here. That means the normals are flipped. So let's go back to layout, select it, go into edit mode, press A to select all, and then Alt N, recalculate outside. Now when we go back into sculpt mode, you can see it's fixed it. Now the normals are facing the correct way. So what we're going to do is, you can either select the smooth brush, or you can select any brush and then hold down shift, which will help you smooth down. So let's bring down the strength quite a lot. And also, you can't really see if it's smooth or not, so let's change the way it looks. So go up here to the top right on the render tab, shading tab. Drop down menu where it says matte cap, select it, and go for something pretty shiny. This is my favorite one here, but you can just pick anything to be honest. This is pretty good to see where the irregularities are at. That's a weird word. But yeah, it's up to you really. You can pick whatever you want. Just pick something where you can see how shiny it is, pretty much. I'm gonna go with this one here. There we go. Looks pretty smooth already actually, to be honest. And press G, I'll come down to this grab brush over here, this yellow one. And then we can just use this to kind of pull the edges a bit closer. Out like this. This is why I use the sculpting tool, because it's just much simpler to be honest than doing it in edit mode. This gives you a bit more flexibility. If you press F, you can bring down the brush size like that. So let's just go about there, something like that. Again, that's F if you want to bring down the brush size. So let's just tuck these in a little bit, hide them away. Don't really need to see them. So just like so. I'm just clicking and dragging, by the way. Press F again, make it a little bit bigger. Of course, you can make this look however you want. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. Just rotate. Bring this out just a little bit more. Just trying to get it closer to the edge. There we go. And but you can also change the material over here, the shading tab. It's on studio right now, so you can just go to flat if you want like a flat color, or matte cap like earlier, and pick one of these matte caps. So for now, I'm gonna go back to studio. Kind of looks a bit better, easier on the eyes. But yeah, and there we go. That's the toe box done. I like it. Looks pretty good. So now let's move on to adding these holes on top over there. Let's get to it. Alright, so let me show you how a Boolean modifier works. So let's add in a plane real quick. I'll show you a bunch of ways how you can make holes. So let's edit mode. Let's add a bunch of subdivisions. Don't bother that much. So one way to make a hole is to select a square around point. So like this. And then basically press W, loop tools, and a circle. That's one way. And if you don't see this little loop tools box when you press W, you need to go to edit, preferences, add-on, search for loop tools, and it should be there. So we're gonna sure let's select a couple like this around the point, then W, loop tools, circle. There you go. And then you can go to face select mode and select them and just delete the faces. There you go. Now when you add a subdivision, let me just increase it. As you can see, it gives you a nice circle. So that's one way to do it. But the problem is it's a destructive way, which means I'm actually deforming the mesh, as you can see. Let me show you what a Boolean modifier does. So let's add in a cylinder real quick. Shift A, mesh cylinder. And scale it down a little bit. Scale it on the Z. Like that. And then let's select the plane. Go into the modifiers tab and a Boolean like that. If you don't see a Boolean, again to the preferences, add-ons, and then search for bool, and it should be Boolean, and then turn it on. There you go. Once it's activated, come back in modifiers, Boolean, and then go to this little eyedropper, and then select the cylinder or whatever shape you want to use. And as you can see, there's a circle there. Now you have three options: intersect. If you click intersect, it will only show you the part of the plane which is intersecting the cylinder. So pretty self-explanatory. If you click union, it will basically both the two will be united. Basically, they will become one. And then you have difference, which basically cuts away. So now once you have this like that, you can select the cylinder, come down to this object properties menu, go down to viewport display, display as, click on it, and then select bounds. There you go. And now, you might not think there's not a big difference between the two, but the biggest difference with the Boolean is that it's non-destructive. So now if I go back into the plane, as you can see, I haven't actually damaged the plane itself, which is really good. And another plus is that I can select the cylinder and move it about, as you can see. So I can place it wherever I want, basically. On the contrary, with this one, I can't really do anything after I've deformed the mesh. So with this one, if I made a mistake, let's say I made it, put it on the wrong place, I can just move it around. So you can see a Boolean works way better when it comes to making holes. So let's go back into the blend file, and I'll show you how you can add holes to the whatever it's called, the horseshoe. Let's go. Alright, so now we're back into the scene, and we're just going to use the same technique as I showed you using the bool tool. So let's start by adding in a bunch of cylinders. Shift A, mesh, and then cylinder. Scale it down a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, by the way, just get it roughly to the right size. Scale it up on the Z, bring it up a little bit. So I'm just going to duplicate this to fill up all the holes, basically. And I might rotate it a little bit as well to be more realistic. So if you, as usual. So yeah, Shift D, duplicate. So double click R, and then we can rotate it freely. Let's just bring it in like that, just to make it a bit more dynamic. rather than all of them just going straight down. There we go. Okay, so now we have a bunch of cylinders to use as a boolean basically. So let's join all of these. Just select all of them, press Ctrl J to turn them into one. Let's go into top view and just move it over to our mesh. Somewhere around there. It doesn't have to be perfect as usual. Let's just bring this down a little bit on the z-axis until it's intersecting. That looks pretty good. So select the toolbox, come to the modifiers tab, select boolean, make sure it's on difference, click the eyedropper and select the cylinders. Now you can see the little circles popping up. So let's hide these. So let's select the cylinders, object properties, display as bounds. There you go. It's really that simple, to be honest. And again, it's non-destructive, so if I go back into the toolbox, you can see it's perfectly fine. I haven't damaged it in any way. There you go, which is really useful. Let's just increase the thickness a little bit. So come back into solidify and just increase it. About there, looks about right. There we go. Looks really nice, really good. And again, you can move this up or down if you really need to, as you can see. Saves you a lot of time as well. So there you go. So now that we have that, let's do the exact same thing for the holes on the side. You can see there. So let's select the reference image and press the / button just to separate it so that we can see on its own, isolate it. So let's add in a cube. No, let's add in a circle. Rotate on the x-axis by 90 degrees. Scale it down a little bit. This will act as the corners basically, keeping it smooth. Let's put one there. While in edit mode, let's delete these two vertices there. Delete vertices and then hover over here, delete vertices basically. So I can delete it, press vertices. Let me select these again, shift 2 to duplicate it, scale it along the x by -1, which will flip it. And then let's scale it on the x a little bit more. Let's just bring it to the corner here. Select these two vertices and let's delete them. So select these 2 points, join them together pressing F, hover in the middle, press Ctrl R to add some loop cuts. Just add a bunch in there, to be honest. I'm not really counting. Let's select these 2 points here. Let's extrude that down. Select this one as well, shoot it down. Something like that. Just extrude all the way down. Why not? And then join these 2, pressing F. And let's add a bunch of vertices. Select 2 points over in between, Ctrl R, and then scroll up. Do the same for all the other sides. Select everything, press F to make a face. There you go. And then let's extrude it. So press E along the axis. There we go. So now we're going to use this to cut out all the shapes into the shoe basically. So W shape smooth, go down object data, and then normals shape smooth. Bring everything about, pressing the / button or key, and let's just paste in front here. Alright, so now let's just bring it forward. So grab along the Y, bring it forward until it's intersecting a little bit. So actually, let me just scale it down a little bit. It's a bit too long. There we go. Looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to duplicate this and just go around the whole shoe. Alright, so now let's select and merge all of them together. So select them and press Ctrl J. There you go. Now they're all one. Let's come down here. Same thing, usual display as bounds. Select this midsole. And then come to the modifiers panel. Add a boolean. Eyedropper and then select this little box. There you go. You can see it's cutting through now. Perfect. Alright, now let's go back into the midsole and just lift all of these edges that are like protruding down. So just select them and then double press G, slide them up. As you can see, it looks pretty clean. And now let's just make a new collection for all of these parts. So click on the top right here and just call it extras. And let's put all the booleans in there. Let's call this the toe ball. Just trying to keep it all organized basically. Now another way you can move an object to a new collection is by selecting it and then pressing M and then just choosing the collection you want to add it to. And then just rename it to side ball. So remember, if you want to move something to a new collection, select it, press M, and then pick wherever you want to send it. Alright, so there we go. We're almost there, almost finished with the shoe. Got most of it done. Well, most of the upper at least. As you can see, it looks pretty cool. Nice. So now I think we should move on to the strap. We might as well go to the strap.
Alright, so before we move on to that, let's make the insole. I'm kind of tired of looking through this shoe, to be honest. So the simplest way to do it, let's start with the plane. So shifts to bring the cursor back to the middle. There we go. Again, if you click anywhere, if you want it back to the original point, just shift C. Like that. So shift A, let's bring in the plane. Scale it on the x-axis. Let's bring it about there, just a little bit over. So select everything, press W, and then let's subdivide. And then shift R to repeat that just a bunch of times. That should be right. Again, remember, if you keep it as low point as you can, the better basically. So let's just move these points about a little bit. W to bring everything in. Or to slide the vertices. Here we go. Go into X-ray mode, make your life a bit easier. Remember, that's Alt Z. Doesn't matter if it's out a little bit because we're going to add a subdivision, so it's going to make it smoother later on. But anyways, just bring everything in. Just get like the general shape of it basically. It doesn't need to be perfect. Like that. Let's bring that up like so. There we go. See that curve there? Let's just follow that. So just bring these vertices down. Let's add a loop cut right here. It's Control R. Another one probably here. This top view, and then press Control 1 to add the subdivision. You can see smooth is out a little bit. W, shade smooth, shade smooth. Let's bring it down just a little bit. About there. And then let's just bring these vertices in. There we go, got it done. Let's give it a bit of thickness. So let's add the solidify modifier and just increase the thickness a bit. So as you can see, it's kind of poking out to the side a little bit there. So we're just going to bring that in. And basically just go around the whole shoe, making sure everything fits inside nicely. Alright, and that's the insoles done. So let's rename it real quick. Insole. Let's move it into this folder here. Just trying to keep everything organized. There we go. So now that we have that, we can move on to the strap. Alright, so now we can focus on making this heel strap over here. So let's go. So we're gonna start with a cylinder. So shift A. By the way, anything you make in 3D, you should break it down to a slight primitive shape. So obviously for the toe box, you'll have to use the plane and kind of extrude it out. Hope that makes sense. So with the strap, we're gonna start with the cylinder. So let's go shift A, mesh. Let's go cylinder. Scale it down a bit. That looks about right. So rotate on the X 90 degrees. And let's press the cylinder and the reference image and click /. Just isolate the two. Kind of make it the rough size, pretty much. About there, looks alright. That's about big enough. So let's scale it on the Y, make it a bit thinner. Probably about that big. Select this two outer edges, like so. And then we're going to bevel them. So Control B, add a bevel. About that much. Something like that. Yeah, that looks alright. Let's select this inner face over here. And we're basically gonna scale this down to kind of fit that scale. So press S, turn off proportion editing. Press S, scale it down. Just about the rough shape, doesn't have to be the exact size, so something like that would be alright. And then let's extrude it inwards. About there. Press Shift E, just to mark sharp. Select this outer ring over here, put Control B at the bevel. Just kind of makes it a bit more realistic. And then let's shade smooth. Then come down here, the little green triangle, pull this up a little bit. And then let's press Auto Smooth under the normals. So normals, Auto Smooth. And there you go. If I select from about here to about probably about here, something like that. So let's just select the faces in between. And then we're just gonna extrude it out. Something like that. You can see how it's curved on that side. Don't really want that, we want it flat. So select it and then scale it. Scale it X0 like that, and then rotate on the Y. And let's just, so let's go by bring everything in by pressing / like that. So then let's select the strap and we're going to mirror to the other side just to save us some time modeling. So it's moving out a little bit, and then go into your modifiers panel, add a modifier, go to mirror, and then just click the eyedrop and select what you want to mirror off of. And then just pick one of the options. If X doesn't work, try Y. If Y doesn't work, then you can try Z, I guess. But one of them will work, so just kind of play around with it. Alright, so let's select strap, and then the two reference images, and press / to isolate them again. So let's go back to the top view. We're just going to use the reference image to kind of help us get the shape of it. So let's add some subdivisions in between. About that many. Like 4, not too many. And let's select this end over here. Go into top view. Turn on proportional editing. And then let's just move them along the Y. Move it a bit forward, like that. Something like that. And then press R twice. Again, to help you rotate freely. Because you want it facing the right way. Let's bring it about there. And then let's turn on clipping. So if I turn off clipping, this is what happens. They can go right through each other. Then when I turn clipping on, they stop in the middle. So let's extrude one more time. Meet them in the middle. And then press delete faces. So we delete the faces that are kind of hitting each other. So if you zoom in, I'll show you what I just did. So if you don't delete the faces, they remain there, and that will mess up your normals basically. So you make sure you select them like that, all of them. Press delete faces, so that's hollow in the middle. So that's what we want. So now what we've got to do, go back in the top view, and then kind of just give it the right shape. About there. You can slide this one up, slide it back down. So if you slide it all the way and bring it back down, it will just straighten it a bit more. So this is give it like a bit more of an organic shape. Alright, so now that we've got the general shape of it done, let's add the subdivision modifier. There we go, looks pretty good. Nice. So that's the strap done, well mostly. So, but we need to add details. As you can see, there's like a outline detail, and it's wider towards the middle. So let's do that real quick. Select back C, and then select these vertices, and let's just open them up a little bit, kind of get the general shape. Bring this one back in a little bit. There we go. You can see how it's wider towards the middle, and then it gets thinner towards the end. So now let's make this little decal in the middle, kind of indentation, I guess, I don't know. So it stops about there, somewhere around there. So I'm gonna select the middle, kind of bring it out a little bit. Select these two, and then bring those out, and then slide these down. I'm pressing G twice. I'm just trying to get like a semicircle going on, kind of shape. There you go. So So I'm gonna just select these faces. Alright, so now that we've selected the faces, let's just extrude them in. So extrude them, put in the right place, something like that. And then after this, we're gonna scale it in just a little bit, turn off proportional editing. So scale it in a little bit on the Z, and then let's extrude it back out. Just a little bit, something like that. So extrude it in, scale it down, and then extrude it out. Then it should look something like this. There we go. So let's come in here. So let's select this top face here. Go into face select mode, this top edge, and let's scale it on the Z. Just give a little bit more space in there. Looks pretty good. Perfect. Actually, you know what? Let's scale it along the. So let's select the faces again. Press Control, by the way, so you can select in between. And let's just bring it in on the Y a little bit, because it's a bit too wide. Go on top view, and then you can just press G and kind of drag it in. Just a little bit. Something like that, because we don't want it like protruding out too much. There we go, that's better. Let's make this a little bit smaller, it's a bit too wide. So turn on proportional editing again. Scroll up on your mouse wheel, something like that. There we go. Now we're almost there. So now what we've got to do, let's just rotate this just a little bit more. So let me select these vertices here, and then rotate it something like that. And let's just bring this out a little bit. I'm kind of just touching up. Pretty out. Then let's move on to this little emblem on the side, the logo there. Alright, so first of all, we want it to be in the middle of this kind of cylinder there. So the best way to do that is to select it, go to face select, select this face in the middle, press Shift S, cursor to active. So now the cursor is in the center of the circle, which is where you want it basically, so you don't have to line it up later on. So let's exit and go Shift A. Let's add in a UV sphere. Let's rotate on the X axis by 90 degrees. So RX 90. Press enter. Let's scale it down a little bit and kind of just get it to the right size just to fit in there. I'm gonna go about that big. Looks alright. Let's bring it forward a bit and let's scale it on the Y to kind of flatten it a little bit. So scale Y. Something like that. That looks alright. Let's go into edit mode and let's select this edge here. So that this is the middle of the edge, and let's select the one behind it, and then delete vertices. Then select the other side, L, delete everything. So let's select this outer edge here. Press F to make a face. Press I to inset, and let's do this twice. And then select this outer edge, and Control B to add a bevel. There we go, a little bit more realistic. W and shade smooth, and there you go. So now go back to front view or top view, sorry, and let's bring it forward a little bit. Now you can choose how deep you want it to go in. It's really up to you. There's not a specific depth, I guess. So just whatever you want, bring it in. So you can leave it out here, and you can bring it in all the way. It's really up to you. Let me leave it somewhere over there, like that. And by the way, let's say you move away like far from your model. If you press the period key on your number pad, it will take you back to the last one you selected, which is quite useful. So if you somehow ended up, I don't know, somewhere far away, just press period on your number pad and it should bring you back. So now let me select this and let's name it logo button. There we go. Oh, I can't spell today. Logo button. There we go. And then this will be heel strap. So select the logo button, come to the modifiers tab, and let's add the mirror modifier. Select this, and then just change the options, and it's not really working. Oh yeah, so if your mirror operation doesn't work, you might need to change the object's origin. So select the object and press Shift C, come to object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor, and there you go, that should fix it. So So this is what we've got so far. We're almost there. We only got the midsole left to do. There you go. And then the materials, obviously. So that's the end of part 3, and I'll see you guys in part 4, which I'll drop pretty soon.